Well, so let me pick your preliminary comments, 5 minutes each of you, on the highlights that the president gave. You're looking at the issues generally, and then we will come to look at them sector by sector: education, health, agriculture, one by one. That's your manifesto. How do you feel about it? Over ambitious?
Good morning, Samson. Good morning, my co-panelists. Good morning, the people of Ghana.
And we are told that by the time you borrow the $22 billion to be able to fulfill 75% of this manifesto promise, our debt to GDP would have risen to 100%.
Very well. And let me say a special good morning to all the NDC members on their way or who are already in Sunyani or on their way to Sunyani. I wish everybody a safe journey. And I hope that it will be a very useful and fruitful exercise today. And indeed, we are not that callous, so we may not draw the elephant. We may not slaughter the elephant, but definitely we'll be sucking the elephant back into the bush where we believe they belong. So that is it. Samson, I am very excited. I'm very confident, and I'm very happy that once again our president has proven that he knows exactly from where he is and where he intends to take this country. I'm very happy also that he stayed within the general framework of the vision of the NDC as a social democratic party, and indeed as a party that has a program, sustained program that is following. Anybody who paid special attention to His Excellency the President the last time when he presented this would see a man who clearly is on top of the issues that he was putting out. Clearly that he knows exactly what he's doing. And I'm sure that as we come to discuss the sector by sector projections and programs and vision that he has, would begin to see that in actual fact, it's a journey that we had embarked on from 2009, and it's a journey that we are continuing. So whatever the president has presented was well thought out. It has particular linkages, and the agenda of changing lives, transforming Ghana is on course. All that the president is seeking to do with this manifesto says that, look, this is where we started from, this is where we are, this is where I intend to take Ghana before my term ends. And that is the reason why he's asking for a second term to be able to achieve most of these things. I have been laughing all the way from the very day I saw some 24 billion being ascribed to projects. Clearly, anybody who says that government must go and borrow 24 billion to be able to do 75% of it does not understand what is happening in Ghana. Hasn't sufficiently sat down and followed through what it is. Why am I saying that? Most of the projects that the president speaks to, if you understand where we are and where we are going, you'll find out that even some of them that he mentions are things that money is already available. He talks about motorway interchange. He talked about what is it called? But he also told you that Parliament has already approved money for it to be done. So if you are beginning to add up all those monies, these are monies that have already, are either in or already been worked on. He's talking about completing 200 SHS. But you know that 123 is under construction. Various monies has been expended on them already. And indeed, this is World Bank money for 123. Okay? So really, what is somebody talking about that we now have to go and borrow 24 billion? I can go on and on and on and on. And I agree, he's talking about mechanization centers and things like that. But I know from where I see that already thousands of tractors have been worked on, and they are on their way. If they haven't even arrived in the country, some have started arriving in the country. So clearly, the president is not sitting somewhere and doing phantom promising. The president knows exactly where these sources are coming from, and that he is not going to wait to borrow 24 or 22 billion as somebody wants to put. Most of the things are there. We have the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund that has been created as a vehicle to rake in money to do some infrastructure projects. We have the Ghana Exim Bank, clearly envisioned to move into some of these areas. So clearly, these are things that we are doing that we understand exactly what we are doing.
Okay.
And therefore, we are not going to wait to borrow the kind of money that people think we are going to borrow.
Thank you. Let's hear from Nana.
Oh, but I thought it was 5 minutes.
Yes, you are done.
Oh, really?
Yes, you're done.
Oh, no, that's quick.
You're done, yeah.
Well, I hope that I'll be timing
hours. You have 3 hours.
Yes, I'll be timing an
to
hour.
discuss.
So clearly, let me just wind up by saying that we have a clear vision championed by the president where we want to go, and we are bent on changing lives,
right,
transforming Ghana.
Nana, like he says, and the president and the NDC believes this is realistic. What did you make of it? You must have watched, because the very next day you were organizing a press conference.
Well, thank you, Samson, and let me wish my colleagues and yourself a good Saturday morning, and our audience as well. My brother, George Lowe, I understand has been bereaved, so my condolences. I've been calling him, but I couldn't get him.
Thank you.
My condolences. Now, yes, it is the political season. Elections are just around the corner, and people who want the votes of the electorate are engaged in telling the electorate what they can do for the electorate. Presidential candidates, parliamentary candidates, and it is all in order that you have to present your vision, your programs, your ideas to the electorate. So there's no problem with that at all. NDC is rolling out their manifesto today. NDC is coming out in the next 2 weeks or so. The other parties, I'm sure, will also be coming out soon.
MPP is coming out in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, we plan to come out on the 8th of October.
All right.
So it's the season.
There seems to have been some miscommunication between yourself and John Boedu, because you were reported to have said on the 18th and he said on the 8th.
I think the words 8th and 18th maybe, but anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
So it is the season for programs and policies and visions and manifestos. There's no problem. But you see, there's one significant feature that all Ghanaians must take notice of. It is this, that in all of these manifestos, all of these visions and programs and plans, when it comes to President Mahama, the evaluation of his programs and visions and so on, how realistic they are, would have to be judged, because he is the incumbent. They would have to be judged on how he has performed in office, the previous programs and vision that he gave to the country. Because of all the contestants, he's the one who has had 4 years as vice president, and 4 years as 3.5 years as vice president, and 4.5 years as president. So there's a basis for judging what he tells us, and that basis is his record in office, and that is what everybody in this country will do. And
That's
I'm
fair.
sure when
That's
we get
fair.
to that exercise, you would find out that the performance, the delivery of President Mahama has been abysmal, and that he would have a tough time convincing Ghanaians that he will be able to do some of the things that he says he's do, based on what he had promised earlier in 2008, in 2012,
His
that
delivery
he
is
wasn't able to do.
abysmal in which area? Infrastructure?
Look, when you look at even the themes,
Because he has loads of that to show you.
no problem. When you look at the themes, they say 4 themes: social development, economic development, probity, transparency, and accountability, and then infrastructure. Of these 4 themes, all they talk about is a bit of infrastructure. And you can see some projects. You go to Kwame Nkrumah Circle, they're doing some interchange. You go to Reach, they're doing an extension to the hospital. You go to Kaswa and so on. But the economy, the other 3 themes, the other 3 legs of his vision, the economy, the macroeconomy, agriculture, industry, cocoa, all of them negative. When you go to the social infrastructure, the record is terrible. You go to our natural resources, all the things he promised, apart from infrastructure that you can see a few projects going on. And even that one, when you look at the value for money and the cost to the country, but let's give it that you can see some infrastructure. But beyond that, there are 3 other themes, something. When we go into it, you would find out. And the president made simple promises like changing the SHRAG law to make the SHRAG able to conduct investigations on its own and be able to prosecute on its own. And 8 years down the line, such a thing has not been achieved.
Thank you very much. You hold it there, so we'll come back and talk to you about them. Kweku, you watch the president do his delivery. Some say, I read somebody trying to score him. He said that he watched him, his presentation, his delivery, everything excellent. But when it comes to the substance, he say 0.
Well, let me be honest with you. I didn't have the benefit of watching the president because of certain distractions. I occasionally had a chance of, listening because of where I am, radio and things. But I was so insignificant that I have to be honest with you on that. And this is not the first time I'm making this point. Also, really, I've had a difficulty doing a serious analysis of what we call the highlights in the absence of the full text of the manifesto. Not that it cannot be done. Some aspects could be done. But I was wondering why we're being invited, and this is not an indictment of you, it's happening everywhere, to interrogate this thing when today is the day this manifesto will be launched, so that we can do a proper, more comprehensive interrogation of the issues arising. Well, but the party chose in its own way to do a highlights first, and in this kind of vibrant democratic society, you are bound to have reactions and scrutiny. So perhaps I'm being a bit too
but that thing, that process you mentioned, isn't that a bit, extravagant and needless? You do a highlight, it costs you money. You then go and do the launch itself, that also costs you money.
Yes, that's what I'm conceding, that perhaps they know why.
That's the point. If you just let me give you the reason.
No problem. I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very basic, We are talking about a manifesto, and we are talking about a society where we have various stakeholders and various levels of people. Now, what the president chose to do, or what the party chose to do, was, look, this is like an executive summary of the manifesto.
Which you can present at the launch.
Presented at carefully selected people. You do not expect the diplomatic corps, for instance, to troop to a Sunyani, a carnivalous or rally atmosphere to listen to the manifesto.
They troop to campaign launches or
I'm saying that in their numbers. Then we carefully selected people from industry, from labor, from all those, carefully invited to come and listen in so that they are able to do a proper critique. In Sunyani, what we are going to do is that we are launching our manifesto. Foot soldiers, members of our party, the euphoric atmosphere and things like that. It doesn't enable you to really point out some of these things.
You could segment it.
Yeah, no, and we just
do
want
the task for the diplomatic people or the other people you call, and then you
all in Sunyani.
Yes.
No, because time does not even allow you. People have traveled from there; they must go back and things like that.
Thank you very much.
So that is really what we chose to do, and I think that it's a better way of reaching out to people.
I think you have explained.
This focus group was being provided with skeletons to deal with, no meat. So I don't see where.
But why? Executive summaries always give you some.
This is not what I see as an executive summary. I'm being honest with you. Look, let me give you a classic, and because I'm restraining myself because you say you asked us to go into specifics. 5 regions. What does it mean? What does it mean? What am I supposed to analyze about that? I suspect there may be more details.
Analyze the prospects.
No, come off it. I suspect in the full text there may be some details. 5 regions. We have 10 regions now. Which regions would be affected? Then you have something to discuss. Oh yes. Oh yes. Look, blank 5 means nothing. But it shows that you have an idea.
Right.
You may have had some reactions, some petitions, some appeals
Please don't
from
react.
places
Hold on.
to ask you. That's why you came up with the figure 5. You definitely have an idea which regions you are going to target.
Right.
You definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
But at the highlights, you did not tell us. So if you ask me to interrogate it, I'm going to look at just the concept and not any concept that doesn't come with any meat. If you said Greater Accra or you said Northern region, I may have basis, population science, dynamics, the geography, the districts, the economic resources. Then we are driving the discussion into a realm of very serious analysis.
So from your perspective, obviously, the class of people he said were needed at this executive summary sort of gathering were offered nothing to be able to do the analysis.
That's my candidate opinion.
If I may come in, that is where it is wrong because Kweku didn't
I'm only
listen.
expressing
Kweku didn't listen to the
but
whole
subsequently,
If you did, you understand that the
Please.
president just didn't say 5 regions.
No.
But he gave explanation. He said, I've received petitions.
But that's what I've said.
Wait. He
I've just
said,
that.
I've received petitions and that we are going to put up a commission.
Yes.
To look at those.
We'll deal with that.
Yes.
So you hold on.
No. It still doesn't meet the test of sufficiency.
Can we keep to this structure? Thank you.
It still doesn't meet the test of, if you like, my test of sufficiency.
You are entitled to it.
In order to activate a discussion of a certain quality.
Right.
Except that here we are, perhaps this is what they wanted. We make a lot of noise from that day to now. Then they launch the thing and we are continuing, we are talking. So perhaps it's good for them in terms of propaganda value.
All right.
Dubious propaganda.
Thank you. Now, see, I don't know what you think, but if you like, can you assist us first from where you come from, dealing with matters of governance in general? Can you begin by looking at the significance of these manifestos in the first place before you zero in on your preliminary take on the president's presentation?
Good morning. Good morning to my panelists and then to Ghanaians as well. I think it's only Professor Chu, who I know, who has done some proper study on the use of manifestos, even though it's not as comprehensive. But I think for many years, the anecdotal evidence was that, well, it didn't matter. But I think in the last maybe couple of years, the NDC has changed that particular understanding because they have made the fulfillment of manifestos a part of their campaigning strategy. So the Green Book, things like that have become important. Even when in government, in the presidency, there have been people who have been tasked with overseeing the fulfillment of manifesto. So I think it's changed the game in terms of the importance of manifesto. But whether or not it is what persuades voters one way or the other to vote, to make their choices on election day, I think that's still a study that people have to do. But manifestos, I think, for the parties have become more and more important. All right. But for me, finally, we can talk formally about issues, policy, and ideas. And I think that's a good thing.
Right.
All right. Everybody has been calling for manifestos early on, so we can have enough time to really interrogate what the plans are. And I think, I agree with Honorable Akomia when he says that for the NDC, it's also about accounting for their stewardship. Right? So there's all of these. It gives us a lot of information to interrogate these issues. My preliminary comments will be that in discussing all of this, we have to put all our development aspirations in context. We have very significant challenges with our economy in the short term to medium term, right? That anybody, the next administration in Ghana, have to deal with before you even start thinking about the medium to long term. So stabilizing macroeconomy is important because it has huge impacts on the kind of fiscal space you're going to have to do any kind of investment in Ghana. And it's not an easy task because the challenges are severe. People talk about oil and the prospects of oil and how that can finance either the infrastructure fund and all of the oil is supposed to go into that and all of those things. Following what had happened with the fluctuations in prices and volatility in commodity prices, that should tell us that it is not an easy thing. Nor if we find enough fields to even generate the money that we need, it is still a huge task. And remember that we are also financing the loans that we have gone and borrowed to do development. And that is if the loans that we put out are actually we're going to have a return on our investment for the things we use it for. So for me, the short-term macroeconomic stability is a huge challenge. And when we come to some of the details, we can talk about, what are really the plans to deal with that. The second thing is that there's currently a development agenda that we're supposed to be working with, which is the medium-term development agenda, which will overlap 1 year with the new administration because it ends in 2017. And that also has, development objectives. And then quite recently, the president launched his coordinated program of economic and social development to 2020, which was presented to Parliament. So you have to think in terms of all of these, both formal processes, and then situate all these projections and plans into that to have a good discussion.
All right. Thank you very much, Kojo. And your messages have already started pouring in, and what I'll do is that from time to time, I'll look at some of them to represent your orientation of how you want some of the questioning to go. Now, if we may begin by listening to the president on the issue of education, what the president had to say about education. Let's hear bits of that.
We will, in the primary and junior level, we'll complete the process of eliminating the remaining schools under trees. We'll continue. I hope the target is by 2021 to have eliminated all schools under trees. That is our target. We'll continue the provision of free school uniforms and free exercise books and free school sandals to students. We'll expand the school feeding program to cover all public basic schools in rural and peri-urban communities. We're reviewing the capitation grants and increasing it by 100% in order to support the free compulsory universal basic education. And we're going to pilot the use of electronic textbooks at the secondary level, junior high school and secondary level. And so students will receive tablets that have all their core textbooks on the tablet. And if this pilot is successful, then we shall expand it across the whole school system. We will complete the construction by 2021, when I leave office, inshallah. We'll complete the construction of all the 200 community-day senior high schools I promised. We shall expand the progressively free SHS program to cover boarding students with the emphasis on needy students and students in deprived districts. This year alone, we're adding 120,000 students in boarding school to the free senior high school program. We'll continue to provide facilities for students with learning disability to pursue their educational programs successfully. We'll implement the second phase of the Skills Development Fund to provide grants to over 120 private sector enterprises. This is under technical and vocational education. We will increase the capacity for technical training. 30% of the new community day senior high schools that we are building will be fitted with technical workshops and facilities to offer technical and vocational programs. So it means that out of the 200 new senior high schools we are building, 30% of them will be technical schools so that we can expand the capacity for more technical education. In the next term in office, we will appoint a deputy minister with primary responsibility for technical and vocational education and training. So that we can increase supervision and make sure that we get the responses that we want. We will align vocational training properly under the Ministry of Education. Currently, vocational training is scattered. You have it under social welfare, under Ministry of Labor, under education. We'll align them properly so that the supervision can be much better. We will ensure that the new technical universities maintain their core mandates of science, technology, and vocational training. So the overwhelming percentage of graduates of the polytechnics that are being converted into technical universities must be in science, technical, and vocational courses.
So you heard the president at the manifesto highlights, highlighting some issues that are critical to him as far as education is concerned. I just hope that those who were clapping were not the class of business persons and diplomats that you were talking about were the target of this particular session.
There were party foot soldiers there.
Yeah, I suppose
Obvious.
so.
Well, there are a few.
Okay, just a few. What you won't get at the campaign, at the launch itself. Now,
You mean they were part of the focus groups?
Yes.
Why? They are stakeholders.
now, Nana, I start with you here. This is a president who is very clear in his mind about what exactly ought to be done and how. And he tells you point by point with exactitude what they intend to do if he gets the opportunity for a final time in office. Bonti Benjamin, who belongs to your political tradition, says that he sends this from Chima Buakwa. He says about 98% of President Mohammed's manifesto highlights are NDC's failed 2008 and 2012 promises that has taken the nation backward. Is that your charge?
Well, Samson, when the president got to decide what he said in his next term of office, there was some laughter in the studio. It's obvious that many Ghanaians don't take that ambition serious. Now, this, like I have said earlier, and I'm happy that my brother from CDD agrees, we can only do an objective assessment of what the president is saying by looking at his track record in government. Because he's the only one of all the candidates who has a track record in government. So let's look at the track record, see what he has achieved. And that will give us a good basis for judging what he says he would achieve in the next 4 years if he's given a chance. Now you showed us what he has said in education. And he says he's going to upgrade 125 existing secondary schools. In 2012, he told us he was going to upgrade 75 existing secondary schools. The report shows that he hasn't done even half of it. So you say you would upgrade 75 existing secondary schools. You haven't done half of it. Now you're telling us you're going to upgrade 125 existing secondary schools.
Judge, I hope you are making notes.
Now, you tell us that you are going to expand free secondary school to 120,000 boarding students. When we look at your track record, you told us in 2015 that you are going to extend free secondary schools to board day students in this country. Your track record shows that out of 405 Ghana cedis a year, you paid only 118 Ghana cedis a year. So when you pay 118 out of 405, and then you come and tell us because boarding fees are about 735. Now, when 405 Ghana cedis, you could not pay. When you come and tell us that now you are going to pay free fees for costing 735, how are we to take it? Now, you say you are going to clear all schools under trees. But that's what you told us in 2009, that you clear schools under trees. Some of the schools they had told us that they were schools under trees were schools that were existing even before some of these ministers of education were born. And yet they had told us that those schools were under trees. I remember one in Accra where they said it was a school under tree that they had cleared. And the Presbyterian Church was quite upset because the sitting regional minister of Accra at that time went to that school. It was never a school under tree. But they had put all of this as schools under trees that they had converted to proper classrooms. Now, you tell us that you are going to provide one tablet.
You're not dismissing the fact of that project.
Which project?
The project of
schools under trees.
Schools under trees.
No,
and the achievements they have made.
No, I am looking at how the believability in reference to what he has achieved. Because he had told us way back 2009 that they were going to eliminate, and I have their 2012 manifesto sitting here. He had told us that they were going to eliminate schools under trees.
You are picking it. I was hoping you were going to look at exactly.
I would show you.
Now, it is important to point to it directly when you are referring to.
Well,
now
in their 2012 manifesto, it says eliminate the remaining 60% of identified schools under trees and provide decent facilities for all schools.
Thank you.
This is what they say here.
Thank you. Proceed. But next time you are making a reference to that document, please be sure that you're going to point us to it.
No problem. Thank you, Samson.
Go ahead.
You see, so you when you tell us, and you see, the reason why I was a bit hesitant with the schools and the trees is in the 2012 budget, the 2012 manifesto. They said there was a remaining 60%, but I was looking for the 2008 because that's where the promise was made. And then in 2012, we're told that there was only a fraction remaining and that they were going to do it. So if in 8 years, you said you are going to eliminate schools and the trees, in 4 years between 2009 and 12, you could not. And then you repeated the promise in 2012 that it was only 60% left and you could not. Then, we have a basis for judging whether you mean what you say when it comes to eliminating schools under trees. Now, you say you provide one tablet per child. These model tablets will provide about 3 or 4 textbooks.
I didn't hear him say one tablet per student
or
child.
What did he say?
I heard him say that students will be given tablets. They will run it on a pilot, and then if it is successful, then they would continue.
No.
Okay, per pupil. So
yes,
right,
exactly.
Per pupil. So that's okay. Go on.
That's
Go
right.
ahead.
Then we look at promises you had made to provide textbooks, which are much less expensive, and you could not. You could not provide the cheaper material of textbooks in 8 years. And so when you tell us that now you are now going to provide tablets, we are entitled to ask how you are going to do it, because it is not supported by your track record. And it runs through
which track record as far as the tablet project
the track
is concerned?
record, textbooks. Textbooks that they are providing how many textbooks? Because these tablet, one of the experts was saying that you can use it to buy, the cost to be equivalent to 4 textbooks. Now you haven't managed to provide that, even though you promised it. So
but
when
we
you
understand that as far as the history of the education ministry goes, we have had phenomenal increase in the textbooks, pupil to textbook ratio. For now, at least, there's guarantee that every child has access to a textbook.
It is propaganda.
Really?
Because when you look at provision of textbooks over the period There isn't much difference. Look at the provision of textbook to students in the 8 years between 2001 and 2008. There isn't much difference. The only difference is that a lot of noise has been made about it. There isn't any significant difference in the provision of textbooks in President Mahama's time, and it was in another era. There isn't much difference. And if you check, you will see the provision of textbooks and equipment to schools. There isn't much difference. So you look at health, and you look at economy, all of those things, promises that he had made.
We'll go to health and then we'll go to economy. So I think maybe you should stop at this point.
Thank
you very much, Nana Akomia. And very interesting. I'm sure that you're aware he did a press conference.
Yes, the education. You said you're going to double capitation grants, isn't it? You said you're going to double capitation grants. Now, capitation grant today is 4 cedis 50 pesos. You are in arrears. You are not able to pay 4 cedis 50 pesos, so that schools don't have chalk, and it becomes a major issue. Okay. Chalk, which is provided from capitation grant of 4 cedis 50 pesos. You are not able to do it, and you run into arrears.
Now George,
headmasters in this country threaten to go strike because they don't have subsidies for sanitation. So then you come and tell us, I am going to double capitation.
Okay.
If somebody
is that
tells
you'll not
you
be able
this,
to cover everything. So can you pause there? Now, legitimate questions that Nana Akomia raises, that, he raised, that, look, the president must be taking on his track record in the NDC. It's your track record that we must use to judge the promises you're making. He makes reference to the president promised to upgrade, at 125, existing secondary schools. And he says the promise earlier was to upgrade 75 or so. Not half has been done, according to him. He speaks about the boarding schools and the fees that were promised in 2015. We were supposed to pay in excess of 400. The government only succeeded in doing 100 plus so far, and that's rather abysmal. And then we pointed to the manifesto on 2012 manifesto on elimination of remaining 60% of schools under trees, and that promise is a promise we have today. How can anybody trust? Why should anybody trust the president?
Because the president has proven that he's trustworthy. You see, one of the things
in the face of the failure on these.
Don't worry. One of the things I'm happy about is that when the president promises, he is sincere enough when he has challenges on the way to say that we have this challenge, but we stay true to fulfilling that promise. And the president, that is why the president is telling you even now, that look, I promised you 200 secondary schools. I haven't done that. 123 are in various stages of completion. But I promise that by my second term, if given a chance, I would finish it. He hasn't come to hoodwink anybody by saying that, oh, we are finished. He's being very sincere and candid. Let me speak to what the president is talking about. Nana is talking about the president said earlier that he will do 75 upgrades. Has Nana done any research to show whether that has happened or not?
Tell us what has been done.
A lot of upgrades have been done, and this secondary education improvement project, go to secondary schools. I am a member of parliament, and I can tell you that for the first time, African Secondary School is having a dining hall complex. They have an assembly hall complex. They are having an administrative hall complex. They have had a new boys' dormitory. If these are not improvements in schools, I don't know.
He says not half of that promise has been achieved.
No, and I'm saying that Nana should give me the empirical evidence, because I am giving you evidence of what has happened in my constituency.
You have not given us evidence that shows that what he's saying is not true.
What I'm saying is that
he
I'm
says
giving
not
you
half.
No, I'm giving.
Give
I'm
us
saying
what
that
you know to be the
I am saying
facts.
for the fact that's more than not 75, but more than 75 secondary schools have received improvements. And if I can provide you a list of various improvements going on. VACO senior there's a boys' dormitory going on. VACO secondary school, in fact, African secondary school, there's a new teachers bungalow. VACO secondary school, there's a new teachers bungalow. If these are not improvement in schools, I don't know what anybody's idea of improvement in schools is.
He hasn't said there have not been improvements in schools.
I am saying that president has promised 75. He has done more than 75. So Nana has no basis to be talking about that. Now, we are talking about schools under trees. I agree 100% if anybody says that the concept of schools under tree is not just necessarily that there is a school happening under a tree, but there are dilapidated educational infrastructure that we believe cannot serve today's students. I attended African AP primary school, right? It is only now. I mean, imagine me attending that school, and many other people had attended the school before I did. We are putting up a new structure to replace the old one.
Was it under tree?
That's why I'm saying that, you see, take it. The whole school under trees only is a concept. That schools where we believe that those are dilapidated. That is what has even so. If you want to talk about schools happening under trees alone, we may not get to the numbers that we are talking about. But we actually added very, very, very old dilapidated. If you have a mad building, is it not? I mean, is it not just like a school under a tree? If you have a mad building that has been washed off by rain and students when it's raining.
The promise was to eliminate the 60% remaining.
Wait a minute, we are saying that, yes, and again, from where I sit, I can tell you that not less than 20 new schools have been built in my constituency just these 4 years.
No, the promise is that you are going to eliminate the remaining 60%.
Wait a minute.
We have that promise being repeated.
I'm saying that.
Is he not entitled to say, I cannot believe this president?
No, he is not saying that he's going to eliminate 60%. We have done some work. The truth of the matter is that the 60%, as we said, has not been.
It is here.
Eliminate
60%.
You are going back to an old document. We are talking about today's document. We are talking about today's document. And I'm saying that, yes, the 60% all have not been eliminated. But there is work in progress. And that a lot more have been eliminated. And the president is saying that give me 4 more years. By that time, would eliminate all. I don't think that he has said anything wrong. Now, he's talking about school fees. You see, I have said from day one that we have always had a clear departure from the NPP and ourselves. The NPP says free. We are saying that our free is progressive. We promise to make give some free support in certain areas to students.
Then
wait a minute.
Then people forced you into that sort of promise, didn't it?
Well, they couldn't have.
No, because initially you were completely and totally against the idea.
We are saying that expanding infrastructure and access, and then the free can come. We believe that we've done some good work in expanding infrastructure.
With the 10 completed
We've done
schools.
some good work in access.
The 10 completed
So
schools.
now we want to do some free. But anybody can pretend. And Nana and Co can pretend to be playing politics and propaganda. But something. We indeed itemize the things that are going to be free. We didn't say that everybody was going to go to school with everything. We said we'll pay for this, we'll pay for that, we'll pay for that, we'll pay for that, we'll pay for that. So this time we said we are extending those same facilities.
No, hold it. Wait.
Initially we started with day students. Now we are saying that we are even extending to some category of boarding people from deprived homes and things like that. We always itemize and give a clear definition of those things that we are saying will be free. So for anybody to come and give the impression as if we said wholesale free, it's not true.
He didn't say that.
I am saying that.
He didn't say that. He was specific.
I am saying that.
He was specific about the fee. Are you saying that he gave a figure that you didn't promise to work on?
Yes, we didn't promise. Listen.
Okay, I'm hearing you differently from what I've heard from the education, from those in charge of education.
Listen. Something. Quantify the things that the Ministry of Education has put out. That this is what we are going to get for free.
And it will give you how much?
And it will give you how much money government is paying. I don't have all of them here. But for Nana,
it will not give you the 400.
I'm saying that quantify them. I don't have they've even released new fees and I don't have them yet. But I'm saying that let's go back and quantify.
I'm saying that if you say it is less, and that's,
I am saying that I am aware.
It is really the amount that has been paid of 100 and Nana, what is it again? 118. Then you may be contradicting the education ministry.
Something. Let's understand.
Because they don't talk about the figure. You want to say represents what was promised.
You remember that when President launched this new
manifesto,
these new fees, when we're commissioning the first senior high.
Right.
Remember, they presented a check to the Minister for Education to be sent to schools. it didn't cover the full amount. So they were paying the money in tranches. You understand? And I'm saying that
But that
government...
was in pursuit of free education.
Nana, go back and read. They were saying that 3 days school was going to start, and that this is the check to cater for the first tranche. It wasn't annual. So they are paying the money in tranches. So if Nana has done some computation, you shouldn't expect that government wakes up in the morning and then all the money is paid. They are paid in tranches. So there is really a progressive program that is being run.
Okay.
So really, for Nana to come and say that government has engaged on its responsibility cannot be true. And of course, he is talking and he's not giving us any empirical evidence.
I'm looking for clarification.
So please, let me finish. You can have.
No, that's fair. Let him ask.
When you say progressive, what does it mean?
Progressive means progressive. Gradual.
So it is not free, it is gradual free.
Of course, we haven't denied that. We are saying that we are doing progressively free education.
So it is a subsidy.
I don't know how you want to call it. We know that we are giving some things in education
if the
free.
fees are 400,
I am saying that,
Nana,
you can choose to call it subsidy. We are saying that we have identified things that people are having for free.
So Nana, what's the point of your question?
My point is it a subsidy you are providing?
Granted, it is a subsidy. What's
the point? Subsidy, subsidies have been provided for education since Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay, point noted. Well,
now let's talk about tablets.
Yeah, we'll have to move on.
Yes, but let's talk about
end on that note.
Nana, I'm surprised that Nana Akumia even says that 4 textbooks can buy 1 tablet. Then he has even made our job even easier. Because do you know the number of textbooks students use? Something. I'm sure you have a little one, or you have a little nephew or somebody who
I do.
How many textbooks do you buy? How much? What's the quantum? So if government, and I had one of those things that somebody brought to Parliament to Nana, look, something for about I think 400 cities or 300, because you are buying a small number, it's a bit high. You have JSS, all their textbooks loaded, including questions and answers, right? You have SSS, all their this thing loaded on a tablet. If a student have access to that, is it not much better that anywhere he is, he's moving with an electronic textbook?
Nobody said it's wrong.
Listen, I am saying that as a cheaper. So for him to say that because you haven't been able to provide textbooks, which is going to be even more expensive, you can provide a less expensive.
He's talking about the principle of people who keep their promises.
But I'm saying that we have demonstrated that we have kept our promises.
Thank you.
The president,
Thank you.
The president was spot on. He says that, look, this is something we envisage. We will even pilot it to see the viability of it. If it's good, we'll go large scale. Okay. What is wrong with that promise?
Okay. Thank you, George Lowe. And Malik of Gambivigo says that when I listened to what the president said about the manifesto, it sounded like he was now seeking political power. I did not see continuity in the whole presentation. Are you sure about that? Because I thought I rather had a lot of continuity in it. The whole presentation, what prevented the president from doing those promises already? Okay. He says he's done some, and that's what time could allow him. So he wants more time to be able to do a bit more. Yes, Kojo, what do you say about the president's promises in the area of education? And if you ask me, I'll say Nana's test that he brings forth, which you agree to, is the best way to judge the president.
Actually, the best way to judge the whole proposals for improving education is to look at education outcomes. Because I think that's where you have to start from. All the things we are talking about, buildings, textbooks, what does it mean for the quality of education? The people that are churned out of the basic schools, the secondary schools, university, what quality? Do they have the skill set to play meaningful roles in our development? And for almost a decade now, we've been getting very bad, very, very bad outcomes in education, in spite of the investment. And, you know, not to say that there's not been there's been massive investment. If you add all the funds we've created, get fund, all of these things, huge infrastructure. We've reached, for basic schools, I think enrollment rates now, you know, we are close to 100%.
Yeah.
senior secondary school, the government has focused on increasing access. But if I take, just one outcome, a recent UNESCO report noted that 75% of those leaving school after 5 to 6 years of education could not properly read. Right? Now, everybody will tell you, any educationist will tell you that at the basic level, that is the if you miss that, it doesn't matter what you do to master's level, you will not be able to get it back. You will get a lost generation. And that is what employers will tell you all around the place. This is the challenge. What we have done in the last number of years is to focus on brick and mortar stuff. We've forgotten, we haven't found a balance between building and expanding and creating access and your quality teacher training issues that you have to address. Really equipping teachers, expanding teacher access.
The president says that 12 new training schools for technical and vocational instructors will be built, and that he will expand public sector hiring of graduate teachers.
Listen, even the ones that are in the system currently, there is a lot of work to do about teaching. And that, for me, is the biggest problem. That our budget, currently education and health, we are spending so much. But if we don't find a good balance between doing access and improving learning, we would create a lot of half-baked students who really cannot, they don't have the requisite
So he seems to give you some assurance in that area. For example, he says that there will be $100 million additional investment in vocational and technical training.
You see, there are a lot of the ways in which politicians account for things is to talk about inputs. We can spend $1 billion and make sure that every child can go to senior high school. When they go there, they cannot get proper education and they come out, you can't get it back. We've had these are the same students who are going to go to the police, to the army, to the public service, without the right basic requisite skills to perform the jobs that they need, so that you can improve on the welfare of citizens. And when I see this program, it is the same focus on brick and mortar. And I really, really think that if we don't really address this, and this is for all the parties, and when we come to health, you see the same thing, CHIPS compounds, right? So for me, all these debates about whether we're building 123
what about the chip compounds, if you can make that point, even though we are not in the health sector yet.
In the chips compound,
this is where the president and his appointees, ministers, have dedicated a part of their salaries.
It's not, and not even just them, all the district assemblies. And why is that? Because it is visible and it's attributable. So it fits the political incentives. You go there, everybody can point to, yes, I built that school building, I built this, I built that, all of those things. It means nothing if it's not changing the outcomes.
Okay.
On the chips compound, let me give you a statistic. All right. From 2002, from 39, 2014, 2,948 chips compounds. And all the studies show that you're lacking midwives, you're lacking, equipment, you're lacking that. That ability not to find a balance between that, because it's you go and you build it up, you might be able to get a midwife, but you'll not be able to get trained midwives at the same rate at which you are building the CHIPS compounds. and people go there, they can't get. So, for me, all of this, particularly for health and education and developing the social sectors, it is finding that balance between access and quality. Because when we miss the trick at basic level and secondary level, when we went to school, the old system, O levels, when the person comes out, there's a lot of skills that is not the same. So we really, for me, I want to see a balance. I agree, access is important, particularly at SHS, and then we'll go to tertiary. But we have to really deal with the software issues.
Because already there's some critique about these new, very nice, school edifices that are being built that the president promised, that some of them, where they are found, it's not even likely that they will be properly occupied. you will not even get...
no, let's hope they will be occupied, but I mean...
in the first place.
It's what they go and learn there.
You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, welcome to the new Royal Star Assurance, creating smiles since 1985. Having mosquito coil, pleasant on humans, tough nightmare on insects. Accra Compost and recycling plants, producers of ACAP fertilizer, and that's the truly natural fertilizer. White Temple Agency, a luxury you can afford. What sort of tiles you're looking for, whatever it is, your taste, they will make sure you have it. Ines Fly for a pest-free life. Just you paint and you kill pests and mosquitoes forever. Royal Lightning, and that is the walk in the lights. Kuku, on the area of education, I saw you were making copious notes. Tell us what you have to say about how realistic these promises are.
Well, nice, very fine sounding promises. And I believe if you cut across all the political parties, their policy documents, their manifestos, you might see the same very fine language there, outlining of their vision and things. So sometimes it's really difficult if you are just going to look at it on the face value, And I agree with the point that, and this goes more for an incumbent. An incumbent suffers that difficulty, that challenge, because you are an incumbent, you are seeking to be retained, and so you are launching your manifesto with new and as well as old things. It's a blend. So the scrutiny, you have more challenges than the opposition parties who are not in government. Even those who had been in government before are still less challenged than you, the incumbent, in this respect. And so it becomes a very big problem for the incumbent. See, for instance, this thing about the 60%, you see, we have had to go for the 2012.
Yes.
Now, we haven't seen the 2016 yet. All we had was a highlight, blank, for me. That's one of the points I was making. I am hoping that in the manifesto itself, we'll be told now what is left in terms of what did they do about the 60%.
Right.
So now we'll be told that 2021 is it, we would have finished this percentage. One would then be able to see whether indeed, even if they couldn't fulfill the 60%, they did 30 or 40 of it. Then you are marking them. But it goes beyond that. We need to have the publication, a full publication of where these schools that are the under trees that were eliminated were located. So that at least we, the media, can play our role too by verifying, and subjected them to strict proof. The same thing with the community day schools, the 200. I'm extremely bored. I wanted to say irritated when I hear that thing about 123 schools at the various stages of construction and completion. It's routinely irritating. It's been going on for such a long time, and a lot of challenge has been thrown to the appropriate authorities to move one step forward and give us something of evidential value so that we, the media, at least, if not civil society, can go on a verification exercise. I'm not in a position to do a full disclosure, But in the last few days, the Ministry of Education has accepted that challenge. A bit belated, in my candid opinion, but they've accepted.
The demand is like about a year old.
Thank you. That's why I say so belated. But they've accepted the challenge. I'm not able to disclose how and where.
I've heard you particularly make that demand on Kokroko
so many times.
You and Kwame Sefa.
Yes. Okay. So let's move beyond this repetitive 1, 2, 3 at various stages of completion and construction. I wouldn't say it's an insult to our intelligence, but this routine nature is worrying me. So now they must give us the figures. I'm not expecting that they will put all that in their manifesto in terms of the numbers. I'm not expecting that. But I'm expecting that the appropriate agency, in this case the Ministry of Education, puts out in the public domain. They told us that they will construct these things in the various districts. Let me quote what they said: construct 200 new community day senior high schools across the country with emphasis on districts where there are no such schools. So the schools have not been built in outer space.
It's such a simple exercise to do.
So simple. As for the delay in the failure to execute it, look, you can explain. Perhaps some variations came on board in terms of the figures, in terms of the architectural structure and all those things. I've said that even if they deliver 50, I will give them thumbs up, even though it would have been a failure in terms of the 200 thing. But it's good. So please, otherwise, you see, we are always here repeating ourselves on the same matter. I am hoping that the manifesto will tell us why, though in the introductory they have areas, why the difficulties they went through. Maybe they had to do some variations, maybe even the way the contracts were, awarded, and the capacity of the contractors to deliver. I know what I'm talking about because I've heard some few things. Somewhere along the line, things had to change. Figures had to change.
Inflation.
Yes,
cost of cement and everything.
All those things, but in some cases too, clearly the over-enthusiasm, did I say kindergarten enthusiasm, that went into the initial stages was checkmated by reality. Come out, explain these things. The concept is good, let me be honest with you. The principle is valid and indeed should be supported. But let's cut out the propaganda by 1, 2, 3 at various stages of completion and construction. I think that's unfair to us. To that extent, everything in the education, you see?
If that's the facts on the ground.
There is no such fact before us now. That's the point I am making. Because 1 year ago, the challenge was out there. And this 123 has been repeated over and over again. So why don't you give it coverage? Put it out. If you won't put it in the private newspapers, put it in the state-owned media. After all, the schools under trees, they did it, if you recall, which caused some little problems for them. I believe Akomia was referring to the Presby Church, the school, also Presbyterian, the school that I went myself. I read that. Yes, I was surprised before the school came out. That's the school I went. I stayed in Ghana there. Yes, in the early days of my. No, but it was placed under a publication indicating that these schools under trees have been eliminated and new ones put there. That was clearly a miscalculation, and I'm being charitable in saying so. When I saw it myself, I was surprised because I went there.
But they explained it.
They explained it.
They said they had changed the lock.
That's mischief.
Okay,
so please, that's part of the issues. But anyway, I'm sure we'll go to the other specifics.
Right.
You know.
But Nana Kumia organized a press conference and sought to say that the more reason you shouldn't even believe they can deliver is that they don't have the blueprint, and that these are projects that the NDC poo-pooed to some extent. I'm using his own words. And suddenly they began to change idea and say we'll do the free thing, and they are not even doing it well. So we should just not trust that they will do it. This is just propaganda for the votes.
Yeah, but what do you expect Akwamia to say in terms of the political chemistry?
No, but it's not,
wait. I'm laying a premise.
Yeah.
Not that I don't believe in what he said, but predictably, from an opposition party that is contesting the incumbent, what did you expect him to say? So it's not a surprise.
Okay.
But then there's some merit in some what he said relative to some areas, some of which have come up here.
Right.
We are verifying, even here, we've seen some lapses. We've seen the failure to execute certain things to the optimal level. You may say that's also natural. But I remember Professor Mills telling us, in terms of their 2008 manifesto, that all those objectives, they are attainable and achievable, and that they work hard to ensure that they operationalize them to the letter. I have the publication here. It didn't happen, even if you go back to the 2008, because I think realistically, it's not going to be possible for any political party to fulfill all its manifesto objectives.
But why are you asking us to make allowances for them when they are unable to complete and finish the things they promised they would do within the timelines?
I won't do that on 100% level. I'll go for some principal areas, very critical areas that resources were directed in there, and then I look at their performance. I'll audit the performance and gauge it and say that you failed here, you didn't fail here. The electorate then are the final arbiters. They decide, how did you deliver? I think Kuto was making that point,
right.
the outcomes. They then decide. We are here as analysts. I think we have to be a bit more dispassionate about these things and do a more comprehensive thing. So I'm prepared to make concessions and be a bit cautious in how I analyze some of these things.
Okay. See, as a follow-up, you see, take the Cashew Development Board. When Nanado said,
we'll come there. It falls under the agri sector. We'll come there right now.
It falls
let
under
me share
the
some of the views that people are
asking.
sending to
They
us.
poo-pooed it.
This one from Nana Prempe Okonjiabo says that all the 11-day schools completed were paid for by the World Bank. The World Bank promised to pay for 23. The truth is, government of Ghana has not built even one school by government of Ghana funds. Okay.
That's debatable, isn't it?
That's debatable? Okay.
Does it give the documentary evidence?
But we are aware that this is a World Bank.
I know
sponsored.
World Bank, there's a World Bank input. But
Right.
what he's saying means that up to now, all those that have been commissioned, none of it is
That's a suggestion.
interesting.
Gives.
Very interesting.
Do you know that there is extra fund
from
from us doing some of the projects?
Yeah, there are, of course, many of them.
Okay. Then
the point is that many of those that have been completed are those being funded by the World Bank. So that's what it comes to.
okay. Alhassan Andani in Savilugu says that I can understand the knee-jerk reaction from the NPP communicators to the highlights of the 2016 manifesto by President John Mahama. That is just more elite propaganda. We in the NDC are not propagandists by any stretch, unlike the NPP. Then Abubakari Abdul Majid said, he's sending this from Yendi, that President Mahama said he will distribute free tablets that have core subjects on them to basic school pupils. The simple question is, has he built the capacity of teachers that will be teaching the subjects? Common mobile phones, they are unable to explore. That's what you want to say. They are unable to explore. Talk of these tablets. We Ghanaians have discerned. No amount of lies can induce us to vote again. Nana Yao Safo in Croydon, London, says, is our president serious at all? How could he provide tablets for schools whilst there is not even chalk and textbooks for the kids? What light and internet connection are they going to use? He should come again. Okay. Well, in the NPP era, remember Baredu's project, isn't it? One laptop per child.
Yeah.
The same issues, but we ought to progress. Now, Kweku. Okay, let me get to a bit more of your messages. Prosper Ametowonyona Agbali says that I agree with Kojo If the quality is neglected, infrastructure expansion is useless. The government cannot employ qualified graduate teachers to teach in the basic level. Yet, because of election, they are employing SHS leavers to teach these little ones. Okay, he says, Kudjeto said on Metro TV that there is a teacher deficit of 40,000. Yet graduate teachers from University of Education and University of Cape Coast since 2012 are at home, unemployed. Then Kweku Owusu Mensah in Germany says there is nowhere in the world that every child has a tablet. In the case of Ghana, there is no electricity and also non-availability of internet connection. This is a total waste of our tiny resources. What Ghana needs is a modern equipped libraries all over the country, in villages and towns, and not laptops nor tablets, period. Let me hold it there and ask what you think about what some of our viewers and listeners are saying. They're talking about reliable electricity connection to all parts of the country. They're talking about internet connectivity, and you need these, to power these tablets.
Yeah, but something, I think that people should listen. And if people listen, they will not be making some of this comments.
So take your time and explain to them, okay?
The president has put out a vision. He says we are going to explore the possibility of doing this. Do not forget that he didn't say that tomorrow morning every child will wake up with a tablet. Two.
Did he say a vision?
Are you, please?
Did he say a vision?
Are you also aware that as we sit, GIFEC is deploying some new technology to ensure that there is internet connectivity in every nook and country of the country? About 65 new poles are being constructed and things like that. So that is something that we hope would even provide internet connectivity. But you know that these tablets, your phone, right? You don't need maybe wide area network or Wi-Fi to be able to connect them. Sometimes there are small chips that you can put. There are ways of doing this. That's why he talks about a pilot. And so that's what I'm saying, that if people listen, we are going to pilot it. There will be challenges. You will correct the challenges during the pilot and see how you can do these things. And those who are talking about chalk and things like that, there was a problem, I'll admit, but that is no more. Recently, before school reopened, you were aware that across the regions, school material, teaching materials and everything have been distributed to schools. All directors of education have enough of these things to go into the class. I agree with my brother when he talks about the connection between the fact that quality, and I have said personally that I also believe that we are spending so much in education and the quality has not reached the levels that we want it to reach. Even though I disagree with him when he talks about the results being bad year on year, because we've done analysis, and except in 2007 where we had set bad results, I think that incrementally
that was supposed to be a very brief intervention.
Yeah, but I'm saying that generally speaking, you see, we should pay attention, and I like Kweku's position of being dispassionate. Let's take a step back. Let's look at these things with eyes of Ghanaians and not looking at it as
the president is speaking about implementing these things in Ghana, and the people seem to want to bring the reality check.
I am saying that the people have a right. The people have a right to ask questions.
Yes, but explain to them. They don't say they are not listening.
That's what I'm saying. That you see clearly. Many people may not have, or some people may not have heard the president or seen him during the implementation. And some of the explanations that he gave, you will not find them in the blueprints.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying that if people should possibly find time and take a step back.
In some of the messages, they are asking that schools in the 3 northern regions, for example, when it was time for reopening, they couldn't reopen because the grants were not available. Yeah. And they use that to say, how then do you go on with this free thing that you are doing for boarding schools?
The grants get paid something at a certain point. They may not be paid at the time that we expect them to be paid. But you see, Ghana
reopening of the schools were delayed because of that.
I agree. There are challenges. Always there will be challenges. No government will come and they will not have challenges. But I'm saying that we are also saying that 3 northern regions are part of Ghana, but they are not the only parts of Ghana. There are parts of Ghana that have challenges even more than the 3 northern regions. That is why the intervention to support students with HIV parents, with parents on leave and all those things.
What do you mean? So you want to say it's acceptable?
I am saying that
they have as many. They have like 2 terms arrears for the grants. I am saying that
in spite of the challenges,
it's okay.
It doesn't mean that
live with it.
It doesn't mean that we can also look at those who are not in the 3-0 regimes, but also demand some support.
Okay, that's interesting. Nana Boateng and Milton Keynes says that I am very passionate about education as a teacher and an educational consultant in the UK. I am wondering how this e-textbook on tablets are going to work. Even here in the UK, with all their money and its expertise, we haven't been able to implement this. While in Ghana last year for holidays, I volunteered teaching in some private and public schools. Chalk is still being used in class in this modern day. Some schools can't even afford chalk, and in most schools, just the teacher has one textbook which he or she copies from onto the blackboard. From Enyam Achu in Ho West, he says, I'm scandalized to hear that tablets are going to be given to students. Meanwhile, schools are struggling to get even chalk to teach. Mr. President, give the country to some more competent people to manage for the benefit of all of us. Sofo Yamuza in Kumbungu says that the so-called highlights of the NDC Manifesto is not only an embarrassment to the NDC, but also an insult to Ghanaian electorate. Having listened to the highlights, I now understand why NPP is hesitant to launch their manifesto. Ghanaians will certainly judge the 2 main political parties. Kwesi Che in Tokyo says, it appears we are on a journey to the, quote, promised land, unquote. Due to the numerous promises, why don't we first provide the basic requirements of food, shelter, and clothing to the entire populace before we make those skyscraper promises? Even in Japan, school children still use textbooks. Let us be realistic by doing first things first. Build a strong economic foundation before making promises for the sake of elections. Kweku Owusu Mensa, I've read yours, or this is another one. Sorry. Let's give some other people the opportunity. I think I'll take just 2 messages more and then I'll continue. It is doable only if they want to indeed do. This is according to Charles Kweku. Charles Nkrumah, he is very positive about it. Kwame Nkrumah Ado says the NPP is very smart. They level false accusations at you and keep you in a defensive position while they are inspired to pick your ideas and align their non-existent policies with yours. You watch, many of the NDC's policies will magically appear in their manifesto when or if ever it is outdoor. We could just wait for the 8th. We are told it will be in before you know it. So thank you very much for your messages. For those of you who are writing almost theses and asking me to read on the show, I'm sorry I'm unable to do that. Just try and recompose your messages into small bits and we will share them with the rest of the world. There are those of you who are still concerned about what you say is opulence and extravagance because of the launch, the highlights, and then the launch at the same time, which cost money. We'll be right back after this break.